2008 are still so vivid to me. That was a race, if you remember, where I was running to replace a Republican incumbent in a district that was drawn for a Republican, and everyone said there's no way I could do it. And you all made it possible for me. You believed in me, you worked for me, and we did do it. And then not only did we do that, but we were reelected successfully, and I say we very purposefully. We were reelected in 2012, again, against all the odds, when folks said that we couldn't do it. And you may be hearing a little bit about that in this campaign, that it's against the odds, and it can't be done. But we all know, because we understand what the spirit and the effort of hard work will bring. It will bring success because we believe we can make it happen, and we absolutely will. I am running for governor because I believe so strongly in the promise of Texas, and I am living proof of what Texas can promise and deliver to a young girl who grew up here without very much, to a mom who only had a 6th grade education, who raised 4 kids on her own, working at Brahms Ice Cream and Dairy Store our whole lives, and who struggled really to put every meal on our table, and who had to depend upon her kids ultimately as we got older to help her out. No one in my family had ever gone to college before, and it certainly didn't look like I was headed in that direction either. I became a young single mom. I was divorced, or on my way to a divorce already by the time I was 19. And I was living in a trailer park in Southeast Fort Worth, working a full-time job and waiting tables 4 nights a week and wondering how I was going to pay all my bills. And sometimes I couldn't. Sometimes I came home and my phone was turned off, or my lights wouldn't come on. And I think there are a lot of folks in Texas who can tell that story and who understand the challenges that every day can bring, especially when you don't have an opportunity made available to you to move yourself out of that. But in my Texas, the one I was growing up in way back when, a girl like me could make a success of herself because a girl like me could open a door to college because the state helped make that happen. I started out at Tarrant County College, Northeast Campus, when I was 21 years old to become a paralegal. And the great thing about starting there was that after I was there for a year, I began to understand that college could belong to me too. And then I got the dream of being not the lawyer's assistant, but the lawyer. And again, because my state invested in higher education, I could actually pay my tuition on my own, even though I was living in pretty financially challenging times. And I also then had the ability to go to TCU because the state helped with an equalization grant to make that possible for me, and the federal government helped too with a Pell Grant. And today I can tell a story of now becoming a contributing member to the Texas economy. I can also tell a story in my last 6 years in the Senate of understanding how unavailable that same opportunity is to young people across the state of Texas today. I met someone just a couple of weeks ago in Beaumont, Texas, a young woman who is 24 years old, who lived out her dream of going to school. Her 2 parents were principals, had been school teachers and principals her entire life. And they made just enough money so that she couldn't qualify for any financial assistance. So they had to take out loans. And in order to ease the burden, she did 2 years at community college, and then she did 2 years at Baylor. And when she graduated with $80,000 in student debt. That's what the reality of getting an education in Texas looks like today. And before you even get to that reality, you have to hope that the public school that you went to was able to do the job it needed to do to prepare you to get there. We know that in Texas we have an incredible challenge in that regard. We know that in Texas, we are 49th in the country, 49th in what we invest per pupil in education. We also know we have one of the strongest economies in the entire country, and that there's absolutely no excuse for that. I am running for governor because I believe in the promise of Texas, and I believe that that promise should be made available to every person who wants to make an opportunity for themselves, who's willing to work hard to make that happen. I'm running for governor because I believe in the working people of Texas. And when you and I met that very first time back in 2008, and I asked you for your support and your help, and you gave it to me, I promised you that I would look out for the working men and women of this state. And I am so proud of the record that I have in that regard. I fought very, very hard to make sure that the merger between American Airlines and U.S. Airways could go through. That was supported by AFPA and TWU. You may have noticed that the person who's likely to be my opponent in the general election, Greg Abbott, actually joined the Justice Department in suing to block that merger. And we know what that would have meant to jobs, not only here in North Texas, but throughout the state and throughout the country. And I'd like to take a little credit for the fact that he ultimately reversed his position on that. And finally, if you saw in the paper a couple of days ago, the judge ultimately ruled that the merger could go forward. I was also very proud to author a bill called Texas Jobs First, because I believe when we're spending Texas tax dollars hiring people to do work in Texas, it ought to go to Texans. And believe it or not, and in fact, a huge percentage of work that Texas tax dollars are going to support are going to people not only from out of state, but from out of the country who come here to do that work. And that's just wrong. And believe it or not, it was a really hard bill to pass. I had to try 3 sessions to pass the bill, but ultimately succeeded in passing a bill that requires TxDOT, when they let their contracts, to give preference to Texas companies to get that work. I also have been incredibly supportive of and protective of workers' comp. And you know in Texas we have quite a bit of work to do there. And the leadership in Texas has made sure that men and women who deserve and need that workers' comp are not getting what they deserve and need. I filed Senate Bill 1077 in this last session that would have added an 8th category of injury to entitle an injured employee to the payment of lifetime income benefits based on a whole body impairment that is 85% or greater. And it should have passed, but sadly it didn't pass. And when I am your governor, I will make sure that we put that kind of legislation forward and that it sees the light of day, and that folks in the legislature understand that when that lands on my desk, it will be signed happily. I also was very proud to work across the aisle to successfully cut government red tape that was preventing wounded police officers from receiving the compensation and the benefits that they were promised. And I worked with CLEAT in Austin to help pass that legislation. I was very, very pleased that we actually did pass that legislation and it was signed into law. We all know that Texas and the incredible success story that we can tell here, some people call it the Texas miracle. Lots of states around the country look at us and envy the fact that we have such low unemployment and that we're a good place to do work and that companies are attracted to being in Texas. A lot of people envy that Texas promise, but we understand that it's not politicians that made Texas the promising place that it is. It's men and women like you who work hard every day, who are the backbone of what it means to be a Texan, who are the backbone of what it means to create the kind of economic success that we have here. And it's my goal to make sure that as we move forward, we are no longer a state that has the highest number of adults living without a high school diploma, but instead we are a state that is guaranteeing every child, every young woman, every man that wants to make a success of themselves in this state and help to create and grow that Texas miracle, they will have the opportunity to do that. We have a long journey ahead, and I am going to need your support on this journey as you supported me in 2008 and you supported me in 2012. And I want you to know that we are starting in such a tremendously good place. I have, according to independent polling done, almost a 70% name ID in this state. And I also have very high favorabilities that break outside of partisanship, because I'm trying to work on things that matter to people based on the values that they hold, not based on the partisan affiliation that's next to their name. And I know that if we continue to communicate our message in a way that breaks through partisanship and invites everyone to be part of helping to grow and make Texas strong, that we're going to be able to achieve that. As I said, it's going to be a long journey, but I want you to know that there is not a single person who will work harder to make sure that we achieve this goal than I will. Every single day, day after day, until we get to November the 4th, and then maybe I'll rest after that for a few days. We are going to work hard, and we are going to realize this goal, and we're going to make it happen because we believe it's possible, and when you believe it's possible, you can do anything, especially in Texas. Thank you all so very, very much. God bless you.